Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media, where we are decoding Trump tweets. And today we're going to start with some tweets that we missed on July 25th. They came in at the end of the day, and then go into the 26th. The first tweet: great meeting on trade today with Juncker, EU, and representatives of the European Union. We have come to a very strong understanding and are all believers in no tariffs, no barriers, and no subsidies. Work on documents has already started and the process is moving along quickly. European Union nations will be open to the United States and at the same time benefiting by everything we are doing for them. There was great warmth and feeling in the room. A breakthrough has been quickly made that nobody thought possible. Plus, there was a big kiss.
It is an honor to attempt to decode the Trump tweets. We have checked the trip codes, and it is in fact our president, duly elected Donald J. Trump, who is speaking to us through these tweets. But in between the lines, that is a stable genius. These are the funniest tweets so far in his entire presidency, and they go on for a while. This is like, as I was just looking at them, I was laughing. I couldn't help but laugh. This is the biggest joke ever. G7, remember, he wasn't going to go meet with them because he hadn't softened them up enough. And then he softened them up with NATO, and then he softened Britain up. And now basically what he's doing is he told this stupid, unelected European Union commissioner, and I say stupid because he called Trump stupid, and he says, oh, we can do trade stupid like you, Mr. President. He called him names since the G7. So let's remember, their tactic, G7, Trump tweeted them, basically said, why should I come if you're not willing to do this? You don't get to control anything. You don't get to raise any more tariffs. You've already ripped us off as much as possible. There's only one thing to discuss, and that's if I'm going to do any business with you stinking cheaters anymore. And what did they do? Oh, yeah, they had the head of the EU come out, call Trump names, and threaten him as if he were literally a fascist with Tucker, the president of the EU. Horrible. And then this joker, he couldn't open his mouth during G7 because he couldn't agree with Trump because he still thought he was playing the old EU game with Trump. And those are very old rat lines. Those are channels of corruption that are very old because the EU is the consolidation of that corruption. And here's the trick. This bimbo, Mr. Juncker, I'll call him Junk Man. Mr. Junk Man comes and said to Trump, when Trump asked him to come over to let's negotiate because y'all wouldn't negotiate at G7, I'm calling you. You either come over and negotiate now or there's no negotiation and my tariffs go out the roof. And you lose. You don't get to win in any of this. You lose. I told you before G7, and it should be G8 soon, but you lose. So what did this guy do? Oh, he continued to play the hard line. Even minutes before he arrived, he was still tweeting how absolutely Trump needs to understand, because he's stupid, that there is no bilateral agreements with anyone in the European Union. Everything we do is in a united front. And because he's the head of the commission, which is where the trade happens, he tried to say that. That is such a lie. There is hardly anything at this moment that the EU, all the member countries, agree to. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Because what is really happening here is the EU is falling apart, and this is a perfect sign of it. And Trump is saying, I'll do a bilateral deal with you right now and the countries that go along with you, but I'm also going to do a bilateral deal with others. I do not consider you to be the true representative of the European Union. Because what happened? Nord Stream 2, with an illegal bilateral deal between Angela Merkel, the evil one, and Vladimir Putin, undermined the EU to such a point that Trump basically, when Junkman got there, he said, you need to just shut up. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in this meeting. There's going to be zero tariffs, zero barriers, zero subsidies, and you're going to take our corn. You're going to take our soybeans. You're going to take any surplus we have from our farms, and we are going to not basically end all deals with you because of the illegal Angela Merkel Nord Stream 2 deal, which we busted you on and you have yet to even address. And then you come and you have the nerve in tweets on the way to say those lies again and again. When you leave here today, and as you heard at the presser, he left with his tail between his legs.
And he also said, and you're going to love this deal so much, you're going to hug and kiss me before you leave. That's
exactly what Trump said. And why did he say that? Because he knew that he had every advantage. He couldn't lose. And this fake rhetoric that was used from people like Obama and Hillary and these representatives of the EU and British representatives, members of parliament.
Well, their job was just to sell out America, and for that they did a good job.
Oh, they were just doing a great job ripping us off, and every year they ripped us off more, and every year Obama bent over further and let the world take advantage of us, rip us off, vampirize us, while he was trying to destroy the rest of the world through his bombing and his chaos and his Arab Springs and his Hillary pay to play and basically weaponization of the world, give weapons away, but at the same time have no moral fabric in any decision that he ever made. Look back on anything that Hillary or Obama did. Everything is coming unglued. And so the deals with the European Union are completely unglued. And all those deals where multi-nations were acting as a pack of wolves attacking us, they're all gone. And no matter what anybody says, including Junkman, the deal is, Mr. Juncker, you have no idea what you're talking about. This is the new age when America is no longer subservient and a vassal to the globalist New World Order. Now let's get into a few details because we'll read through a few of these in a minute very quickly. But let's look at the details. What did Mr. Juncker say? He said he would never agree to the things he then agreed to: zero tariffs, zero subsidies, zero barriers, and a rewriting of the, as he called it, WTO, the World Trade Organization, and the World Bank. Trump has been saying from the beginning, the World Trade Organization, this globalist group out of the United Nations, is our enemy, and we need to simply end it. That's what he's doing, one country at a time through each bilateral agreement. He's not going to let up. He is winning every single deal, and this shows you the direction of all future deals. China, for a while, he has to soften these people up with the art of the deal. And people need to sit back and be quiet and let him do it. Because as he's dealing with one country, he's also dealing with all the other countries. When he cancels the TPP or TIPP or NAFTA or any of these stupid agreements, which are wolf pack attacks on America, what is that telling the whole world? Get ready for the Trump deal. He cannot lose against China. China could lose against us. We could defend Taiwan tomorrow. But instead, Trump is moving the largest Taiwanese tech companies to America. Because why? No one's acknowledging there's a war between China and Taiwan right now, except Trump, and he's not telling you his strategy now, is he? Taiwan just put out a cry saying that they expect any moment physical troops from mainland China to come and take over their country. No one's doing anything. Incorrect. There is so much going on right now that you can't even keep track. And the thing I got to mention last is these imbeciles at G7, China and other countries tried to play this game. Oh, if we have to lower the amount of money we're ripping America off for, first off, buying your raw materials cheaply, taking them out of your country, manufacturing them in our countries, which means you don't have manufacturing capabilities anymore in America, and then selling them back to America at a gouged price. This is the same thing that the military-industrial complex does on both sides of the war. You buy the raw materials, you see, you control it. You control the market. And when you buy them, you state that you're a poor, poor nation compared to America, so you need to be given all kinds of deals and subsidies. And
like the stuff that they would get from USAID and OPEC. Those funds flow into those countries, and you don't see anything happening with them.
And they flow to only friends of the people who are working with the senior executive service members. And so what you're seeing here is then those countries try to do the following. Manipulate currency. Okay, you want a war with America? Go ahead. Manipulate currency. Because when you manipulate currency, that is an attack upon America. That is one of the worst attacks, except for dropping bombs, that you can do on America. If you don't think America, China, is going to retaliate to your silly, ridiculous, immature, naive capitalism, where you think that because if you don't gain from tariffs, that you simply adjust the currency so that it manipulates the price of the value of things that are bought and sold, do you think Donald Trump wouldn't notice that? Maybe you don't know about the Exchange Stabilization Fund. Maybe you don't know about the Plunge Protection Team. Maybe you don't understand that Trump is in control of the U.S. Treasury for the first time in probably 100 years.
Well, wait a minute. No, not Trump for the first time in 100 years. The first president in charge of it? That's what you're saying, right?
Yes. Trump is the first president in 100 years, well, since the founding of the U.S. Fed, United States Federal Reserve, that has actually taken control over...
Well, who was in control with the other presidents?
Oh, they always said that the U.S. Federal Reserve controlled monetary policy, them and a group of 12 people, some of whom are, well, in different groups. Some are presidential appointees. And the great thing is, of those 12, there's not 12 there now. And Trump could appoint all but one if he wanted during his 4 years.
Now, are you saying that the Federal Reserve is no longer in charge of this then?
Correct.
President Trump has taken... I think that's a huge headline right there.
Well, we have already made it a headline, Betsy, many times. We've told everyone, and you have spread the word more than anybody, that monetary policy is not determined by the U.S. Federal Reserve. That is just a big friggin' lie. So when you hear that the Fed says this, the Fed does that, that's all lies. What is Trump doing now? He's telling the Fed, do not raise our interest rates as China is lowering theirs,
right.
or I will replace all of you.
Yes.
Right now, he actually has the capacity in just the next few years to literally cause this organizing group that is pulled from these different agencies I mentioned to actually change what the U.S. Federal Reserve policy is. You know, the U.S. Reserve policy could be, we forgive your debt.
Yeah.
We forgive your $20 trillion debt because we admit it's fake.
Yeah.
And we'd like to keep our job and keep stealing money from you. So what if we just forgive the debt and we start all over again? That's about the only choice the Fed has at this point, because otherwise they're going to be blocked out of the system. It's called odious debt. It was created illegally as odious debt. Therefore, it is not owed. And I could go into great detail how this works.
This would wipe out student loans. This would wipe out personal consumer loans. It would totally change the whole banking system.
With a few other changes, you would have no IRS. And you could do that simply by only charging taxes where money is spent and giving no one a break, which actually would make the world... There would be no payroll taxes. There would be no money taken out of your payroll for Social Security either. We have already calculated this, put it in our intelligence reports, and shown you how a simple few things that could be done, which any logical person would agree with, especially once they see the corruption that really stands behind it, it would completely transform everything. But it doesn't matter. Trump is doing that. He's doing it slowly. It's the setup. This is the sting. If you don't see Robert Mueller now coming in as the target in the crosshairs, look at these articles being released now about Comey and Mueller's relationships. They go back to what we pointed out from the beginning. The second that Mueller was appointed, actually before that, we had already pointed out why Comey does what he does. When you see the collusion between Rosenstein, Comey, and Mueller, there's no way these guys are getting out of this. And the more that Mueller does, the more he gets exposed. They have so much subliminal programming going on, they know that you can't carry a thought from one second to the next. They destroy your thinking capacities as you are being entertained. No matter what it is you're being entertained with, even when you're reading the news, even when you're watching sports, they are destroying your capacity to remember. That is the reason nobody remembers that the people we have named as the cabal that has been doing this conspiracy is the exact same people that have been doing this conspiracy literally back to the 70s. And we've given you the evidence.
Before, I mean, you look at JFK's assassination and you look at the relationship that George Bush had back then, senior, with the CIA. I mean, this goes back. I mean, we can take it back, but we try to keep it contemporary so that you stay interested.
That's right. And so we keep Rodenstein. Hopefully he will get impeached. Certainly he is in contempt. And what he has done now, because they used the old methods, those don't work anymore. The cover-up of Comey and the cover-ups of Mueller, those don't work anymore, Rat Rodenstein. Don't you understand this? You coming out and getting mad and yelling at Jim Jordan saying that under no circumstances will there be put forth a bill for me to be in contempt. No way, it's not going to happen. And he starts screaming. Why? Because that's the old method. That's what Comey did. That's what Mueller did. That's what Eric Holder did. That's what Loretta Lynch did. That's what Hillary did. They get mad and they don't give you information in a testimony under oath. They perjure themselves, and then little happened. Well, now something's going to happen.
Do you have anything more to say about Junkerman before we move on to the next one?
I can say basically European Union, this agreement you're making, which you now must make, as he said also, that once they entered into this negotiation, it cannot end until it is done, and it must continue until it's done because Trump gave them a deadline. He said, if you don't do this now, I'm going to take further actions. The actions that he's taken, especially this supposed, the only one thing that mainstream media could hang on to, the tariffs on aluminum and steel, there was nothing definitive said about that. That will be decided in the continuation of these meetings. And when it comes down to it, there will be, as close as possible, exactly what Trump told them it was going to be before he went to the G7.
Wow. And then who's to say what'll happen 3 years from now? Maybe totally the way that he tweeted out the other day. No tariffs.
Free market.
Yeah.
The lie of the free market is simply that, a lie.
The next tweet. Thank you, Georgia. They say that my endorsement last week of Brian Kemp in the Republican primary for governor against a very worthy opponent lifted him from 5 points down to a 70% to 30% victory. Two very good and talented men and a great race, but congratulations to Brian. Now, keep in mind that the other candidate was one that was supported by the GOP. And then Trump came out and gave his thumbs up for Brian Kemp, which has a lot to say about what's going on with this Rona Romney McDaniel chick that's running the RNC. Like, is she not on the MAGA train or what?
This is very critical, what you've just mentioned, with Mitt Romney's daughter running the RNC and his son running 17 state election machines, which are all run by Optech, which probably Mitt Romney has control of that too, because he's been part of the Bush cabal.
Well, we've shown that Mitt Romney actually has ownership in some of these election rigging machines. We can go into that in great detail, but what I am really pointing out here is everybody needs to keep an eye on Miss Rona. I do not think she's MAGA, and I want to see her out if she's not fully, totally, 100% behind Trump.
Anyone not MAGA is out. That's what we're seeing. They are either MAGA, they're with Trump, or they're gone. And what we just saw is probably one of the first true statistics, or at least close to true statistics, we've seen in any election where it was a massive, fantastic landslide for a MAGA-endorsed, Trump-endorsed candidate. That's really what's going on, folks. The lies you see, him having 41% approval rating, that's a lie. Add 20 points to that. And then you will see that he is the most liked president in U.S. history. You will also see that he's going to, even if people hate him, it doesn't matter. There are people who hated him who voted for him because he's doing the right thing. It is their agenda. It's the agenda of all true Americans who believe in their Constitution. So the red tsunami's coming, and the Democratic Anarchist Party is on its way out.
Okay, there's a few tweets in between there you can read if you'd like. Remember, I keep all these tweets in the link that's located in the description box just under the YouTube frame. So let's go back here. Great to be back on track with the European Union. This was a big day for free and fair trade.
In other words, reading between the lines, we were totally off track with the European Union. Yes, in every single regard. And now we're going to go back to something absolutely shocking. Fair trade. There was no fair trade. There was no fair trade going on probably since Woodrow Wilson. And it has always been geared towards those who are the big bankers, the big brokers, and the people like Big Ag. The article's out now on what's happening with big agriculture and the way that it is completely rigged. And then it's rigged by just the people who also give them the money to do what they're doing. They all need to stop. That's a monopoly. So there was no free trade. There was monopolies. There was manipulation. There was gutting. There was bloodletting. There was vampirism. There was parasitical economic activity. At this point, as he says, it's a big day for free trade, and it's going to continue to be a big next 6 years as long as Trump is the president. Nobody else has ever done deals like this before in U.S. history.
And then we can wrap that up with a tweet. European Union representatives told me that they would start buying soybeans from our great farmers immediately. Also, they will be buying vast amounts of liquefied natural gas. I do want to say, I wouldn't buy soybeans. You know, a lot of these soybeans are GMOs, and we got to stop this GMO stuff in our country if we expect other countries to buy our agricultural products.
Well, right now, Monsanto is being sued for cancer, and if that comes through, there's going to be some severe actions. They already know they're going to lose. That's the reason they let Bayer buy them, because Bayer is not an American company.
I mean, they're the ones that provided the gases in Auschwitz. This company is there to kill you.
Monsanto's plan is depopulation. That's the reason they want to control the seeds. If in 1 year they decide not to give out seeds, we all die. That's where it's coming to. They want to control all food in that way.
Why would any country want to buy our soybeans when they're GMOs?
They shouldn't, because the research shows that if you feed pigs soybeans or corn...
And corn, especially corn.
They can't produce in 1 generation.
Their stomachs, their intestines start falling apart. What do you think's happened to yours? Why do you think everybody's walking around here so fat and ill? It's planned, people.
There's a great thing that says, perhaps you're not allergic to gluten, you're allergic to the Roundup, the Monsanto weed killer Roundup that is sprayed on the wheat just before they harvest it so that it dries it out, so then they don't have to spend a long time drying that wheat, but then they just super poisoned you. So you're probably not gluten, or you might not be gluten allergic. You might not have celiac disease. You're probably just being killed with glyphosates. We all are. It's just that some are sensitive to it and some aren't. If you're eating GMO wheat, you are killing yourself.
And so I would say to the Europeans that are having to buy now our soybeans in this trade deal, that's great. But you must demand that American farmers grow non-GMO crops.
One other thing to say, that they will buy vast amounts of liquid gas. Well, that is saying, I busted them on Nord Stream. Angela Merkel and the cheating German nation, which was doing a bilateral deal with Russia, has been exposed. Therefore, I forced them to buy our liquid natural gas, whether they like it or not. That's the way a deal works.
Oh, that's good. Okay, now we're moving on to a different subject. We're talking about Twitter. Shadow banning prominent Republicans, not good. We will look into this discriminatory and illegal practice at once. Many complaints. Of course, you know that Twitter is just one more Silicon Valley company that took the technology that Leader Technologies provided, and then IBM Eclipse Foundation threw it out to all these folks to grab for free to run the company. So at some point, I want to see them all called out for this theft, because their companies wouldn't exist if they didn't steal this patent.
That's great. And we had told you before that we believed he was working with Dan Coates to work against these Silicon Valley evil surveillance corporations that are actually being paid by our own U.S. tax dollars through the military and through the Department of Defense Broadcasting Board of Governors. It's manipulation. What is he saying here? He is taking them down. He went ahead and let the Facebook testimony go as it was, because now every time Mark turns around, his lies are catching him. And so what happened? He let himself destruct. 20% loss of the value of Facebook just recently. That 20% is driving the stock market, folks. Facebook And these Silicon Valley fake, like Twitter companies and Amazon and PayPal,
Apple, Netflix,
all of them.
Google, they're called the FANGs.
They drive the stock market. Trump is taking down the stock market. He knows that those are inflated. He knows that it's lies. And so he's going after them one at a time. So what has he just now said? Oh, he didn't say it should be. We will look into this discriminatory and illegal practices at once. That means that the $8.8 billion that Facebook was sued for privacy violations and for manipulating content is not even going to be anything compared to what is going to happen now here in America. Twitter will be taken down. It will be sued.
And YouTube needs to stop taking all these channels off as well.
And the shadow banning, Twitter's saying that they don't do that. No, they've proven it.
They do it.
You even put something up on Truth News headlines to say, plug in your name, see if you're shadow banned, and it'll tell you. And anybody conservative could be shadow banned. Many conservative stations knocked off completely, not only of Twitter, but knocked out of Facebook. 85 of the top ones, some of them had millions of followers, gone overnight, no reason. So that's why Facebook's going down. They're going to have gigantic lawsuits. We predicted this, by the way.
Now, you're twisting kind of the Twitter thing and the Facebook thing all together, but you're really talking about how social media across the board are censoring us. Folks, they are in a panic. You are getting educated. You out here, you're getting educated way too fast, and they don't know where it's coming from. So our plan is working, and our plan is to give you core information that you then take and say in your own words, not their propaganda lines that they want you to say. You know how they do on television where everybody's saying the same phrase over and over again. But what we're doing here is pushing out the good research, then you take it and you say it in a way that educates and enlightens your audience. And then it's just this amazing truth bubble that happens in the world, and the enemy doesn't know where it's coming from. So they're freaking out. They're trying to shut down everything.
All of the companies that opened by stealing Leader Technologies' patents for scalability of social networking then became weaponized. So the only reason that Facebook still exists is because of now overt large military contracts that supposedly make them too big to fail. No, but look what happened with Facebook. They bought CNN. They gave the money to keep CNN from collapsing. I don't know if people know that. So basically CNN is Facebook. Look what happened to Amazon. Jeff Bezos bought Washington Post. What is that? These major, and by the way, Amazon, same thing. Weaponized, huge military contracts, too big to fail. Wrong. Trump has already hit him. Going to hit him with the U.S. postage theft that he has. And whoever gave him that advantage, going to hit him and already hit him with and already warned him of this. You're going to pay taxes in all the states. You're going to stop being tax exempt, and you're going to stop operating outside of this country without the other countries going after you for the taxes you're avoiding there. Why do you think Luxembourg, Ireland, and the rest of the European Union are all trying to get their piece of these companies? They know they're going down. We predicted some time ago they're going down. And since then, they've tried to prop them up with too big to fail investments from the military, okay? The CIA, the DOD, the DIA. Who do you think is making those decisions? The same people who invented these systems. They took them, they gave them money, they weaponized them.
Well, that would be the Highlands Forum Group. The
Highlands Forum Group is the principal group. For a while it was SAIC, then it became... it was called InQtel, and now it's turned into Leidos. It was Lockheed Martin, who had the largest intelligence agency, corporate intelligence agency outside of the U.S. military, who actually is owned by the Queen. She has the golden share in Lockheed Martin.
It all goes back to the Queen.
And remember, when Mueller and the fake Justice Department, Eric Holder was supposed to be going after Lockheed Martin because they had given our technology to our enemies and they had gouged us out of literally hundreds of billions of dollars. Comey went there, worked for them for 5 years and made sure nothing, no charges, but massive donations to the Hillary Clinton Foundation. to the Clinton Foundation. So there you see Mueller working again with Comey, but this time Comey's in Lockheed Martin. Mueller's in the FBI. Then when Mueller was in the Justice Department, Comey was over at HBC making sure that they didn't get any fines. And then when they switched up and Mueller went over to HBC, and then this is musical chairs to protect our enemies. These guys are enemies of the state. And we've been saying this. We named it a long time ago. It's just that so many people are not willing to see the horribleness of the corruption of this small cabal of people who've basically taken over Washington, D.C.
The next two tweets are about a trip that POTUS has taken to Dubuque, Iowa, and then Granite City, Illinois.
Wherever he goes, MAGA reigns. So whatever he's doing there, it doesn't matter. We've only seen a blink of a non-win when they said that he made a mistake in what he said about Putin and the intelligence community. No, he didn't make a mistake. He was actually telling the truth. But he should have added a couple words. And besides that, really, where have you seen any non-winning? When have you seen any losses? Anything that was a loss was temporary, and it was because mainstream media wouldn't hang on for just a second to see what he's doing.
Well, that happens because people will, they give in and they turn on the television set and they think, well, I'll watch Fox News because they do Fair and Balanced and stuff. And then the next thing you know, within 30 minutes, they're questioning the POTUS and they're feeling depressed. So we keep telling you, turn off the television set. And like Drudge is only going to link you. Occasionally they might link you to an independent media site to keep you off the mark. But basically they're linking you to more propaganda, the Washington Post and the New York Times. But thank goodness they're so stupid. These publications, as soon as you get onto them, then they put up these firewalls, the white pages, so you can't read their stuff. So they're actually helping us in that regard to keep from reading them. Okay, the next tweet. The United States will impose large sanctions on Turkey for their long-time detainment of Pastor Andrew Brunson, a great Christian, family man, and wonderful human being. He is suffering greatly. This innocent man of faith should be released immediately.
Why is Trump doing this? We're going to tell you why Trump is doing this. Because I need more descriptive words. The extremely fascist and evil leader of Turkey, Erdogan, has been lying to us completely about everything in Syria, the oil in Syria, the refugees, the plan that he had with Obama and Guterres from the United Nations and refugee plan, and the plan, of course, with the Pope and the Catholic Refugee Services. This was all planned. He has made billions, tens of billions, well, by now it could be literally $100 billion, by receiving help with these refugees, right? Syria is receiving $11.5 billion last year given to them because of the war. The war is very, very lucrative for Turkey. Now, Obama, yes, if you didn't know this, of course, Obama, Soros, and Erdogan got together and said, this is the plan. We're going to invade Europe. So I'm going to bomb, Obama says, 200,000 bombs, more bombs than any president's ever dropped. Every year he dropped 25,000 bombs. He was dropping bombs, and the last night he was the president in Yemen, and then weeks later telling Trump he can't do anything to Yemen. He can't intervene there. He can't drop any bombs there. He can't send in any troops there. But Obama was allowed to. So what were they doing? The invasion of Europe. That was Obama's plan. That was Hillary's plan. That's what the Arab Spring was. It was the complete annihilation.
And Merkel was right there helping them.
Oh, Merkel was...
she was paying for the boats, for the refugees.
She is so much a...
disgusting.
A principal creator of...
Is she really Hitler's daughter?
Well, people say so, but I say that she's at least the adopted stepdaughter or adopted daughter of George Soros, because whatever George says, that's what she says. And when George lies, she lies. For instance, George says, take all the migrants, unlimited amounts, and keep screaming that you want more, 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 more. Then one day George Soros said, from one day to the next, no more migrants. 28 nations in the European Union went from one day to the next from saying we love migrants to no more migrants and all migrants stay in their country. We will check them for asylum there, and then we will provide them transportation to the very countries that want them. That's of course, why didn't they do that from the beginning? Because George
Soros,
was
an invasion.
He has taken. Let's look what George Soros did. Because of this, he went after Montenegro, Albania, 5 or 6 countries there. He went after them, and we actually brought up a bill in the House to stop him from economic terrorism and political manipulation of these countries that are part of.
How come they
want
don't
to be part of
arrest
NATO?
him? He's an American citizen. So passing a bill, what does that do? Somebody needs to go arrest him.
The bill is dead.
Who is protecting George Soros on this planet? Who is his protector?
That is the Privy Council.
The Privy Council and the Queen.
Yes.
Well, then somebody needs to go take care of the Privy Council and the Queen so we can get rid of George Soros.
Someone needs to lock the door on that privy and not let those people come out.
Put them in a prison. Put them in the Windsor Castle prison.
But what they're doing in that country isn't illegal. They don't have a constitution, and the Queen rules. Here, we don't want the Queen to rule.
That's fine, but we need to get her out of America business.
We need to get Turkey out of NATO before Erdogan gets us into a war. We already told you about this. Erdogan, one person. Why is Trump worried about one person? Because he knows that Erdogan right now is absolutely insane about one person, and his name is Fethullah Gulen. And we have exposed Fethullah Gulen for being behind a group called...
and I'll make sure to put that article in our link.
A Muslim group called Hezmet that has taken over 167 charter schools and received over $2 billion worth of U.S. tax dollars to support a school that does not fit the laws and the rules governing charter schools.
Not a school, many schools.
167 of them. FBI has gone in and raided them. Their schools, every one of them, it practically is under question. Many of them improper hiring procedures, hiring only non-certified men from Turkey.
And you know what? This is the summer that we are doing this. This is in July. We need to cut the funding immediately, so these schools are not opened in the fall, so that families have plenty of time to go find other public schools to take their children.
They force their teachers in those schools to donate back to Fethullah Gulen's money, which is basically, according to Erdogan, is the source of the riots and the revolution that tried to overthrow Erdogan. I hope Erdogan gets overthrown. I do not like Fethullah Gulen because I know what his schools are like. I've been in them. I know what they are. They are not American. It is Sharia law coming to roost in America, and they do it through education. This is what the Wahhabists do. He's not a Wahhabist.
And as soon as you
Salafist.
show up for an inspection for those schools, then they make their motion so that, all the girls and boys get together then. But before you get there, they're all separated.
And when you look into their books, you'll see that they're teaching in Arabic, and they don't think we can translate. I had the books translated. It's hatred towards America. And they separate the boys and the girls. They don't give them the proper education that is equal for both boys and girls. It's just extremely Muslim, okay? But the point is that Fethullah Gulen is wanted by Erdogan in extradition. They have begged for extradition of this man because they're convinced that he's still causing a revolution in Turkey. Well, I don't know about that, but here's the deal. This will get Erdogan to say, well, I might give you the guy you want if you give me Fethullah Gulen.
Oh, that would be a great exchange, and also cut the funding off to his schools.
And I say, absolutely do it. And do it now, Mr. Trump. And whatever you do, Mr. Trump, I know that you want NATO to be strong. You made it strong. But if you allow Turkey to remain in there, that could be literally the cause of World War III. It is to Erdogan's advantage to destroy Damascus and Syria. I could go into great details about that. But he is as bad of a theocratic, fascist, Islamic leader as you can find anywhere. He might as well be a secular Ayatollah. And when you listen to what he preaches, he is just slightly on this side of hating Americans, but his actions demonstrate that he hates Americans. So I don't really make much difference between Turkey and what Turkey could do and what Iran could do. Iran could at least overthrow the regime because everybody knows it's corrupt, but Erdogan has an amazing control of his country, and the things that he's done have been unprecedented because he uses Western technology, and he controls Western technology. He has basically allowed no free press, and he has cut off completely social media so that it can't cause the CIA sponsored, George Soros sponsored color revolution in his country. He's been good at avoiding the color revolution. The color revolution is taking place. There's one taking place in Iran right now, but we don't really want to talk about that too much because that's one that we actually support. But in Turkey, what Turkey is doing and what Turkey is accusing Fethullah Gulen of doing, I don't really care about. But I do believe that Trump knows that right now he's going to start doing a deal and creating a broker arrangement with Erdogan. This is just the beginning. If this person is released, then you're going to see an incursion of Trump's team going into Turkey and probably being the first Westerners to get a foothold in there to try to establish some democracy, because there's no democracy in Turkey. So that's what's going on with that.